What initiatives do we need that are powerful engines backing high-risk, high-reward research with real economic return? And we want to further commercialize our discoveries in Europe, and therefore we must foster a risk-friendly culture, simplify regulations, and incentivize private investments in high-tech ventures. And to facilitate this conversation, I'm really excited that we have Ali Aslan, an international TV presenter and journalist, back here on the stage. As you might know, he's been working for 2 decades with CNN, ABC News, Deutsche Welle, and others. And he has interviewed whether it was Bill Clinton, Melinda Gates, Emmanuel Macron, Zelensky, and many other presidents and leaders that shape the world as it stands today. So just the right man for this conversation here on stage. So therefore, it's now my pleasure to welcome our speakers, Professor Eystein Jansen, Vice President, European Research Council, Norway, Dr. Feiyu Xu, Professor of Industrial AI, German University of Digital Science, and Professor Joachim Mnich, Director of Research and Computing, CERN, Switzerland. Please welcome them to the stage.
Thank you so much, Flo, once again for this very dynamic, very kind and flattering introduction. And yes, as you pointed out, we just witnessed how the UAE is introducing and announcing Investopia here in Berlin. UAE is certainly a success story when it comes to digital transformation. But what about Europe? This is the question we want to ask here today. How is Europe faring in this race, international global race, to become a leader in AI and digital transformation? Great to have you all with us here on stage. Professor Jansen, let me start out with you. You are, of course, the Vice President of the European Research Council. And it is often said here on the stage, and as a matter of fact, all around this conference, that Europe is lagging behind in new technologies, and AI specifically, certainly when we compare it, for instance, to the UAE, as we just heard. What is the role of the ERC, of the European Research Council, in changing that, in fostering European excellence and competitiveness? How do we turn it around?
Yeah, it has been said that the formation of the ERC is the best European invention ever. So we have invented the mechanism. The question is it strong enough?
Yeah, yeah.
And
can you bring the mic a bit closer and speak up a bit?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And what ERC is doing has created a place where the best minds in Europe can come with the most compelling ideas in any subject across all kinds of research. And that has transformed European universities and transformed European science. But it is too small. We have very stringent proposal evaluation where we evaluate proposals by the best experts. We look for transformative, disruptive ideas. They can be very risky. We don't mind risk. And we could fund about 40% more top-level ideas than we can. So the level of funding for that kind of research is too low. And this has been recognized, for instance, by the report by Draghi, the former president of the European Central Bank. Yeah. So there is an increasing understanding of this, so we are very keen to see what the new financial framework of the European Commission will be.
So funding certainly a very critical aspect. Needs to be more, needs to be faster. I think that message is heard very loud and clear here. Professor Mnich, of course, CERN is one of the most, if not the most, internationally reputable hub of scientists and engineers all around the world. If you were to comment on what we just heard from Professor Jansen, where do you see Europe in this global race? How are we doing?
I think, first of all, thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to talk to you today here. I'm optimistic what concerns Europe. CERN is certainly a European flagship project. We are a laboratory for fundamental science, but fundamental science always needs technologies and is pushing technology. AI is, I think, a very good example for that. We are using, or we started to use these kind of techniques when I was a young man doing research at CERN, and then 30 years ago, machine learning, artificial neural networks were coming into the field, improving our capacity to do research significantly. And I also think that CERN is a very good model to improve science in Europe and elsewhere. We are a role model for other institutions. And concerning AI, I think the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has recently proposed a CERN for AI, which I think is an excellent idea.
Yeah. CERN for an AI certainly sounds good to the ears. Let's wait for the implementation and see how it plays out. Professor Xu, we had an optimistic take from Professor Mnich. He says, yes, perhaps Europe is lagging behind at the current moment, but I'm optimistic that Europe will get there eventually. You share that optimism?
I'm always optimistic. Otherwise, I will not live in Berlin, right? I think it's very important that we all contribute to the innovation and also make AI be part of the innovation and adoption of our industry in Europe. However, since I have been working in AI and also in the industry in the last 30 years, I want to be also very realistic with the current situation in Europe and in Germany. If we look at the AI ecosystem, starting from the chips to such as NVIDIA and the cloud infrastructure, we know the hyperscalers, they are very important for the cloud infrastructure and also infrastructure for training the large language model and the companies who deliver large language models and the industry who leverage this technology stacks in order to build applications and deliver applications, right? European countries is by end of the value chain. Therefore, we should be very, very seriously about the challenges because we don't have the don't cover the overall value chains, right, of AI, the technology stack. We are heavily dependent on the hyperscalers in US, and also in China when our industries, companies who are global companies, if they work in China, they have to use China hyperscalers. If they work in rest of the world, they leverage American hyperscalers, even in Europe. Therefore, this is a urgent situation. We have to catch up.
Yeah, we really do. It's an urgent situation. I think that's very abundantly clear from listening to all three of you, Professor Jansen. Yes, it is urgent. Europe certainly has to step up its game here. Is perhaps the mindset sometimes getting in the way here? That Europe is more focused on incremental improvements rather than disruptive technologies. You think it's one of those elements?
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I think we're also maybe a bit too complacent that we have good research, but the transformation of that research into businesses, the scaling up is too slow. And if you look at ERC, we look for disruptive ideas. They have to be transformative. And then if you look at the outcome, if you put the best minds in Europe to come with the best ideas for fundamental research, they lead to more innovations. There are more patents coming out of this approach than the normal top-down approach. So you have to trust the best minds that they have the good ideas and give them the freedom to explore them. And that's what we do. So 40% of ERC projects are cited in patents. And across all but 70% of those are in what you would call the high-tech compartments.
Yeah, Professor Mnich, you were nodding emphatically when Professor Jansen was speaking.
Absolutely, and actually we at CERN try really our best to do that, to help the transition from fundamental research, which, as I said before, is pushing technology to the market. We have, and in preparation for this meeting, I talked to our knowledge transfer departments. They have concluded more than 80 cooperation agreements with industry, with other academia, on collaboration in R&D, but also on licenses, co-ownership of innovations, etc. On the other hand, we also try, and CERN is also a producer of young talents. We have at any point in time more than 5,000 people across the world, not only from Europe, students, young postdocs, which are trained on science and on technology. And we have, and there is a booth here of the CERN Venture Connect, where we try to also help these people to make the transition from their ideas developed at CERN to economy. And more than that, even a step below for students, even undergraduate students, we have a project which is called 𝐉𝐮𝐴², where we try to inject a bit of the entrepreneurship gene into the students. I think it is, as Professor Jansen said, a problem in Europe, this transition, and we have to strengthen our effort in this direction.
We have to strengthen our effort here. That much is very clear. But you've very splendidly explained the path from labs to market and how CERN is nurturing that talent that is very much needed here. Professor Xu, also the question to you on how Europe can overcome the middle technology trap. How do we move from incremental innovation and towards a more disruptive and globally competitive technology ecosystem?
Let me start with the research, right? Research, since I've worked at the German Research Center for Artificial Intelligence for almost 20 years and really understand the research business. I think the biggest challenge now also for universities and research groups, the universities and research institutes, they cannot really do disruptive research because of the missing of the infrastructure, missing of the large data, right? And if you look at the breakthrough results in AI, they didn't come from the research university. They come from Google, from OpenAI, from Meta, right? This is really a big challenge. Therefore, I think the European Union, EU, should really provide funding and infrastructure so that all the data sharing, so that great researchers can really do the research, can deliver results. This is one thing. Another thing, in order to on the one hand, we need to build up the ecosystem in Europe. On the other hand, also the companies, the business, right? They have to learn how to infuse AI and conduct intelligent transformation to make a successful, scalable business. This means AI will make their products more intelligent, even create new products. On the other hand, AI can also make the process much more efficient, and AI will have impact on business models. Every company needs a holistic AI strategy in order to make successful.
Yeah, so I think the competitiveness certainly is one aspect that you have all alluded to, that Europe here urgently needs to step up its game and the challenge on European competitiveness here. Something, of course, Professor Jansen, that the Draghi report is very adamant about. What is the ERC's, what is the European Research Council's plans for answering the challenges raised by the Draghi report for enhancing European competitiveness?
Well, the Draghi report praises the ERC. They want more of it. So that's one thing. We have seen a flow of ideas that are more in terms of engineering. So we have several panels just dealing with engineering transformative engineering ideas, fundamental engineering ideas in many fields in life sciences, but also in physical sciences. We have a mechanism called proof of concept, where you can, if you have a project, you can take ideas that you think may be commerciable and get funded to take the next step.
Yeah.
Next year we are doubling the funding for that, and if you look at the outcome of that, when these go to the European Innovation Council, they're much more successful than any other proposal. So there is a pipeline, but it's too thin.
Yeah. Professor Mnich, I want to give you a chance to chime in here on European competitiveness and the Draghi report. How do we enhance?
I said it already.
Yes.
We need a CERN for AI, we might need a CERN for quantum, we might need CERNs for this and that as well. I think that's a very good model, which is providing infrastructure, as you said, which is supporting the education of young talents in the various fields. And I think that would, together with ERC, which is a competitive grant, as we know, that would, I think, be a very good, a very fertile ground for the future.
And Professor Xu, when we talk about talent, of course, everybody, all countries are in search for that global AI talent that will help them take the next leap. Of course, there are some attacks right now on world-class leading universities and research institutions in the United States from the current US administration. I was wondering, do you think, that's a question to all of you, do you think this, in a way, is an opportunity for Europe to attract that talent that may consider leaving the United States?
I think it's a big opportunity. However, I don't know whether Europe is ready for catch this opportunity. Because if you want to attract the talents, right, you have to provide the environment, the rewarding system, in order to let the talents feel they can be successful and welcome, right? Therefore, I think the rewarding system in Europe must change, the culture. The culture depends on how we how we provide the compensation. The salary has to increase, right? This should be comparable salary like in American companies. And you have to provide infrastructure so that they can work. And also the regulation about data, right? If there's no access to the data, to the technology, even we have the talents, right? They want to be successful. They don't want to lose time. And also, I think this kind of rewarding system must change. If without this rewarding system, I think no talent will come to Europe.
Yeah, and certainly you snooze, you lose. Other countries are also looking for that kind of talent. What is your take on that, Professor Jansen?
Well, I think the call is already heard. We have been in discussion with the European Commission in terms of changing some of the mechanisms that we have, just in view of the recent changes due to the Trump administration's attacks on science. I think there is a fantastic opportunity, but I agree we need to be competitive also in what we offer. And we are now exploring what we so far has called super grants. This was announced also by von der Leyen recently in a meeting in Paris. Bigger grants for really top-level people who want to move to Europe to set up their laboratories or whatever they need. But I agree, the salaries is one question. The level of funding for an ERC project has been the same in euros since it was founded in 2007. So we also need to compensate for the inflation since 2007.
Yes, for certain. Laying the groundwork and offering the same kind of conditions. Yeah. Professor Mnich, do you already see some impact of this alleged scientist exodus into Europe?
No, looking from CERN, we don't see that. It's, I mean, also difficult to see, because at CERN, we have people working with us from 110 different nationalities. So we have been attractive from people from all over the world, right? But I see, of course, there might be now an opportunity also for other institutions, universities in Europe, other national research labs to attract talents from the US. That's true. Yeah.
Professor Jansen, you wanted to jump in here quickly.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that you can get ERC funding coming from anywhere in the world. You have to spend about half your time in Europe. That's the only, but that should be a positive thing, I think.
I was going to say, you don't have to twist anyone's arm. Europe is still, for all its shortcomings, it may be still a wonderful place to live. As we are slowly running out of time, I do want to, from lab to markets, the question is how big science is shaping Europe's new economic horizon. Professor Mnich started out on an optimistic note, and you said you have to be optimistic to be a scientist and to be in this field. Perhaps each of you, one specific point that makes you optimistic about Europe's future when it comes to AI.
I think when I met, because I'm also sitting in different boards, right, of different companies, and I see also many companies really start to have AI experts like me at the top level of the companies and build up AI governance. I think this is a really important signal that the industry started to decide on infuse AI for their intelligent transformation. Therefore, I'm very optimistic.
That's very good to hear. Professor Jansen?
I think Europe has now learned that we cannot be complacent and be in the back seat. So we need to be in the front seat. And then, therefore, we need the pipeline that enables that.
Yeah. You've already started out by being optimistic. Let's end it on an optimistic note.
The thing that makes me optimistic are the young people, the young talents in Europe. And they will carry the future. And I think it will be a very good future for you.
The young generation, that many of them we're seeing here at GITEX for certain. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, for Europe to go from the back seat to the front in order to not only shape but succeed in this global race for a new economic horizon and ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Jansen, Professor Xu, Professor Mnich, thank you so much for this very insightful discussion. Much appreciated.
Thank you.